In this video, we're gonna jump into Lightroom to edit some of your church photos. And I'll show you a few of my favorite editing techniques that I go to specifically in Lightroom when working with church photos, because church photography is unique and it comes with particular challenges. Often the light isn't ideal, the auditorium is dark, there's too much noise in the shot. On top of that, a lot of the times we're capturing what we see as it happens, and maybe our framing isn't perfect. There are distractions in the shot. But there's so much that we can do in Lightroom to clean all of this up because the software is so powerful. You just need to know how to use it, and that's what you're gonna learn today. We're gonna be taking this to this, this to this, and this to this. Let's dive in. Well, hey there, I'm Brady Shearer. This is Pro Church Tools, and we're here to help your church navigate the biggest communication shift in 500 years. If we're meeting for the first time, consider subscribing. If you're already subscribed, turn on notifications so you get instant alerts as soon as we drop new training and content. And now, let's move into Lightroom. All right, we've got your photos loaded up into Lightroom, so let's dive right in. The first technique that I wanna teach you it doesn't have so much to do with the particular tools that Lightroom gives you, but with the plan that you formulate in your head at the beginning of the editing process. I've watched a lot of Lightroom tutorials as I've become more familiar with this software myself, and so many of them, they'll get to a specific panel in Lightroom, like let's say split toning, and they'll say something like, yeah, this is a very powerful tool, you gotta really know when to use it, and you gotta know why you're using it, and then they'll move on. And I don't know, in my own frustration, I'll think something like, okay, but how do we make that decision? And one of the ways that's helped me navigate that for myself is color theory. So I've got this color theory chart here, and this comes from No Film School. Shouts to them for the chart. And maybe this reminds you of elementary school when you were learning about primary colors, secondary colors, and how to fit them all together. I just want to lay out for you 3 individual color schemes, 2-tone color schemes, that I find myself going to when I'm trying to formulate, maybe at the beginning of a photo editing process, like where I want to take it. There are obviously more than this, but these are 3 that I like. And these 3 are simple, they're 2-tone. Basically, you look at a color on one side, like let's say these oranges, and then you pair it on the color chart with one of the colors on the other side, like these blues. So you could have orange as kind of your primary color, complemented by some blue tones. You could invert that and have blue as your primary color, complemented by some secondary orange tones. Or another one I like, this might be my favorite, is the greens complemented by the reds and the oranges. So those are 3 that you can go to when you're beginning editing your photo and think, okay, is there anything here? Do those colors exist naturally where I could pull those out, where I could emphasize them and desaturate some of the others? Because if you want a photo to look great, one of the easiest ways is to emphasize these complementary colors and de-emphasize all the others. Rarely do you see a photo that has like 6, 7, 3, 4, 5 even colors in it that looks great because there's just too much going on. It's just too busy. And so the first photo we're gonna work with, this comes from Matt Whitsett and Destination Church, at Destination Church on Instagram. This particular photo, I believe, was shot by a woman at this church named Jacqueline. So shout to this church for sending in this photo to us. When I saw this photo, the first thing that I picked up on was, oh, interesting. There are a ton of orange and blue tones in this photo already that we're gonna need to work with a bit, but that we can pull out and emphasize. So the woman here leading worship on stage, she's got this orange shirt, blue jean jacket, and then the lights on the stage, we've got these orangey red ones in the back, lots of blues. Now, there's a bit too much red in here, there's a bit too much magenta in her face and in the shadows, and there's too much green in the blues as well. So what we need to do is work to emphasize the 2-tone color scheme we're gonna go for, and then work to de-emphasize the other colors that exist in this photo. So the first thing I wanna teach you is, it's gonna happen all here in the HSL color tab. And this is the before on this shot, this is the after. So this is where we're gonna take this photo. This is the before, this is the after. And right now, I'm gonna just turn off the color adjustments that I made to show you how powerful this HSL color tool is when you understand how to use it, and a lot of that gets back to color theory and making the decision in your mind ahead of time, here's where I wanna take this photo. So I turn this off. I've made a lot of other adjustments on this image when it comes to tonal adjustments, different filters, vignetting, exposure, but look at the difference just the color makes. Here's without the color adjustments, and here is width. You can look at this now. There's just a mess of different colors, right? There is, and I haven't made any color adjustments here. This is just how it is with the basic tonal adjustments. There's tons of blue, yes, tons of orange, great. There's also a ton of purple and magenta. There's a ton of green over here. It's a mess. And we need to make those fixes within this color tab. So let's walk through each individual color. In the red tab, what I've done is I've taken the hue and I've moved it from here as the starting point all the way plus 88 on the orange side. So look at the before and after. I'm removing, when I move this tab all the way to 88, I'm removing all of that red and I'm pushing it to the orange side to create that uniform orange look. We don't want the orange competing with the red, they're too similar. Let's move it all to orange. And then I'm desaturating some of that, like this. And the luminance, I'm also bringing up just a touch. Let's move to the orange tab. Well, the orange is already where we need it to be. I moved it a bit toward orange away from yellow. Bump the saturation a touch, luminance a touch. Luminance is important when you start playing with colors, especially here, look at this. This looks a little muddy on her shirt. I bring this luminance up to like 25, 26, and the shirt brings back some of its brightness. Let's go to the yellow tab. Here, big changes. Look at the yellow banding in these lights here. We move the yellow all the way to the orange side of the hue slider. And now we've got that uniform color. You know, if you've seen us slide this in real time, too much yellow, we're bringing this all the way to orange. Saturation, bring it up a touch. Luminance up to 30. At 0, you can see just a touch of banding, you know, just in here. And then if I bring that up to around 30, we just get that out of there. Now we've got some full, constant, uniform looking orange right here. Green slider, not too much here, so I just remove some of the saturation, make sure there's not too much green interfering. Particularly if you look over here at this beam, you know, if I bring the saturation down to -50, it just removes a touch from that beam, so it's not distracting. I don't want any greens in this shot. Aqua slider, removing the saturation a touch, bringing up the luminance. Blue's where we want it to be, right? The blue is what we want to accent. Pardon me. I am removing a bit of the saturation and then bumping the luminance. Look at the difference the luminance makes. Here it is at 0, here it is at plus 30. It kind of adds this nice heavenly glow behind her, and it brings to life the on-stage lighting by bumping that luminance. You know, when you're working with this color tab, the HSL. HSL stands for hue, saturation, and luminance. Hue is picking the actual color. You know, we've moved some of the reds to be more orange. Saturation is how strong those colors are. And then luminance is how bright, the luma values of those colors and how bright they are. Finally, these two are especially important, I found in church when you're shooting with stage lighting. We've got the purple and the magenta. So the purple, what I've done is I've brought the hue a little bit closer to the purple side, and I've removed the saturation a touch, but I've boosted the luminance by 60. What have I done here? Let's move the luminance down to 0. Look at where all of this luminance is happening. It's happening in her skin. I bring it back, and there's so much life in her hands, in her jean jacket, in her face, and that's because the magenta and purple are living almost entirely in the shadows here and the midtones. So if I bring up the luminance, it brings a ton of life back to our main subject, which is important here because I want your eye immediately to be drawn to our worship leader here. If that luminance is all the way down at 0, you know, you're competing a bit because her brightness values are almost at the same level as the lights around her. We bring that luminance up a ton, and now she is clearly the one in focus based on the contrast of the image. And then here in the magenta tab, brought up the hue a little bit closer to this red side, saturation down to 20, luminance up to 25. You know, again, this has to do with her skin. Look at this luminance. So much of the magenta is the shadows of her skin. So the luminance here, if I bring this back up to where it was before, at 25, look at the difference. Right, we're bringing so much light back to her face, so much brightness, whereas before it was gone. When you start playing with the HSL tab, especially with church photos where there's stage lighting, if you're not careful, a lot of the adjustments that you make can start affecting skin tones, and that can be pretty dangerous because you can make someone's skin look out of whack. Maybe the stage lighting looks great, but now this person looks kind of like an alien, which we obviously don't want. And so I'll show you what I kind of did to offset that. We've got the HSL here. I just walked you through all of those adjustments. now what I've done is I added a tool around her face, just this radial filter. And I'll show you with the radial filter on and off. So here's with it off, okay? Here's with it on. When it's off, her skin looks green, gray, and dead. Not what we want whatsoever. The reason it looks like that is because we had to make a bunch of adjustments in the HSL, and we moved out a lot of the magenta in the image globally, which was good for getting the two-tone look that we wanted, but then that then compromised the skin of our subject, which is no good. So we bring this back. What are the adjustments that I made on this filter? I took the tint and I moved it to the magenta side, plus 50 essentially. And what that does is, see, there's a lot of green here in the shadows. If I zoom in, you can see these yellow, whoops, moving the radial filter. You can see these yellow and green tools, which are no good, and they're kind of fighting with the magenta to create that not natural looking face. Skin tones, you move that up to 50, and now you've got that more uniform, natural pink glow, which works with the overall image of, of stage lighting. I've also bumped the contrast by 15 and brought the clarity down just a touch to make sure that it's not too sharp, and that's just a nice touch for skin tones overall. So that is the HSL tab, that is color theory, and deciding beforehand where you want to take an image. This is the before, and this is the after. All right, next photo up. This one comes from BJ Faircloth from North Cleveland Church of God at NCCOG on Instagram. Great photo that we're working with. Here's the before, here's the after. And the part of this image that I want to focus on, the technique that I want to share with you right now, is what I call heavenly light. And at its best, worship can feel like touching heaven. And so something that I like to do sometimes within an image like this is to add a graduated filter at the top of the frame to kind of almost make it look like there's this heavenly light that's coming down, and we're reaching out and touching heaven. So here is the graduated filter right here. And if I remove it, here's what the image looks like just as it was. Here's what it looks like with the graduated filter. You can see the light that's coming. It's accenting the haze that was there actually in person. It's accenting those light beams, bringing it to life. And it's also hitting the top of her hair right here. It's hitting the mic, it's hitting her hand, and it's hitting the left side of her face. And what it does is it just creates this heavenly glow to the entire image. It's incredibly easy to add. So let's remove it and add it again. I'm gonna click right here on this rectangle. This is the graduated filter. I'm gonna click and drag right here. And so now what I'm doing is everything that's beyond this line will be affected 100%. Everything beyond this line will be affected 0%. And then everything between is gonna be graduated. So we have this gradual change from full effect to zero effect. So there's a nice roll off there. And if I wanted to change it, I could make this graduated filter, that roll off effect, greater. I could make it smaller right here. Feels good to me, where it ends just across, again, her hair, left side of her face, the microphone, and a touch of her hand over here. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to boost the exposure just to about, let's say, 0.6 right there, maybe a little more, 0.75. I'm going to then take the color temperature, and it depends. Here, normally I like to add a little bit of warmth. Here that's kind of working against the blue light, so I'm just gonna actually cool it down. We'll make it about -20. And then here's the key, the dehaze tool. If you add dehaze, you see what this does, is it removes the haze from the image. Well, we don't want that. We actually want to introduce haze and emphasize the actual haze that was there on stage. So we're gonna go take this dehaze slider, move it to the negative. And you see what this does, is it like adds this fog. You can do it too much, ooh, not so good. So we'll make it tasteful, maybe right around 17. I'm gonna move this a little bit closer to her, maybe drag it out a bit more. Where do we want it? Let's say right about there. And we might want to, now that we've added that dehaze, that negative dehaze, we're gonna move down the exposure just a touch, because this is meant to feel organic. You don't wanna overdo it with something like this. So here's the before and the after. We'll hide this so you can see it. The before and the after. Very easy thing to add, and I think can make a ton of difference, this heavenly light addition within Lightroom. All right, here's our third photo. This one came in from Brad Smith and Refuge Student Ministries at CBC Refuge Media on Instagram. Here's the before, here's the after. This is the perfect example of a church photo, and student ministry in particular. This feels like I'm looking at my own youth group experience when I see this photo. You shoot in a dark auditorium. You want to capture what it feels like to be in there worshiping. So you're taking photos of people that are engaged in worship, but they're not illuminated the way that the stage is, and it's basically impossible to see them. And this is, again, one of the unique challenges of church photography. So there's a ton of tonal adjustments that I made here to bring this back up and to work with the lighting there. You know, this isn't a perfect image, but we've gone from here where our subject is almost in complete darkness, except for like a bit of bounced stage light, to here where we can clearly see them. The issue that you run into, and the technique that I want to teach you here, has to do with combining sharpening of a photo with noise reduction. Because generally what happens is in a photo like this, well, you need to remove some noise because this was shot at ISO 2000. And so you want to put in some noise reduction within Lightroom. You do that and you start removing the details that we want to see with our worshiper. Inversely, if you pump up the if you pump up the sharpness, this is also going to emphasize the noise that's already there. So let's go into our detail tab. This is where sharpening and noise reduction takes place. And I'm gonna remove all of what we have. I'm just gonna zoom in so that you can see, okay, look at all of the noise. You know, you can see it around her ear right here at the top of her cheek. This is luma noise, you know, or color noise, pardon me. You can see all this weird RGB, just nastiness of the noise. There's a ton here in the blacks. This is where we're going to get to, where we remove the noise at the same time we keep our subject sharp, or as sharp as we can working with this. So I'm gonna reset this panel, reset the luminance, and reset the amount. Okay, reset this right here. So let's start with no sharpening whatsoever. And you know, let's say we want to accent, emphasize our main subject. We start bringing up the sharpening. Well, what also happens is as we bring up the sharpening, we're bringing up the noise. No sharpening, yes sharpening. Look at all the noise that we're sharpening here as well. What do? This is the key. I like to keep my sharpening between 50 and 70 for most things. Here I'd probably keep it at, 65. I'm gonna grab this masking tool here, and I'm on a Mac, so I'm gonna hold down the Option key. If you're on a PC, you wanna hold down the Alt key. And then I'm gonna start dragging this masking. And what I'm doing here is I'm choosing what to sharpen and what to not sharpen. And I wanna bring it to a point where I don't wanna sharpen any of the background, and I'm only getting the edges of our worshiper's face. So right here around 70 seems to do a pretty good job of that. And now what I've done is I've sharpened the parts of the image that we want to emphasize while omitting the parts of the image that we don't want to add sharpening to whatsoever because there's so much noise there. If we sharpen, we exaggerate that noise, it looks nasty. And now I'll go into my noise reduction and I'll bring this up to, let's say, 25. And you can see how much it cleans up the noise in the background in a big way. That's great. What it doesn't do is compromise the sharpening that we've already done. And this is what you want to do with these dark photos. Sharpen the elements of the image that only need sharpening. Reduce noise in the parts of the image that only need noise reduction. And by doing that, when you zoom in on an image like this, it's still like, okay, this isn't a perfect image. It was shot in really tough circumstances. But instead of throwing this out, and you're not gonna zoom in on an image like this very often, you look at this from afar, it looks soft, but it looks sharp. And that's the look that we wanna go for, where when we're shooting in these dark environments, higher ISOs, we don't wanna see a ton of noise in our image, but we also wanna see the sharp details of what matters. This technique does an excellent job of that. You can use it again and again, especially in church photos. It'll be your best friend for getting those sharper images that don't have a ton of noise. All right, final image that we have here, the final technique I wanna teach you in this video. Again, this comes from Destination Church and Matt Whitsett at Destination Church on Instagram. We've got a great photo here of these two young girls, kids ministry, they're wearing their masks. It's, cuteness overload. The issue, and this happens all the time when we're shooting in church, is that there are a ton of distractions in this photo. We've got this picture frame, maybe it looks like a flag on the right side, this chair, the front of this table, this pile of napkins, and then, these two nasty looking outlets in the background. We want the emphasis and the focal point of this image to be these two girls, and there's so many distractions. But this is par for the course when shooting in church, right? You see this shot, you wanna take this. These two girls, like this is the perfect time to take a photo. It's not the ideal framing and it's not the ideal setup where they're standing, but you don't get to choose that. You just gotta capture what's happening. So there are a number of things that we can do to clean up this image. I'm gonna walk you through them step by step. The first is we're gonna go to the crop tool. So I'm gonna hit R on my keyboard, it brings up the crop tool. I'm gonna crop this for Instagram, so we're going 4:5. And then I'm gonna drag this up and see, oh, this is a great also tip. So right now this is actually 5:4. How do I flip it to 4:5? I'm gonna hit X on my keyboard, boom, 4:5 Instagram. So I'm gonna drag this out, maybe put this girl's eyes on that upper line. Great. I'm gonna crop here. It's gonna remove the gross part of this table right here. It's gonna get rid of our flag. It's gonna get rid of this third chair. None of those things we want in our shot. Great, still have two problems. We got this outlet, we've got this half stack of napkins. We don't want either of those. So we're gonna try to remove those within Lightroom. I'm gonna click the Q tool to bring up clone and heal. These are tools that allow you to remove things from your image. So I've got a brush, and I always use the heal tool. It's gonna be a lot more nice when removing things than the clone tool. In fact, let's use the clone tool first. That actually wasn't that bad. Let's use the heal tool now. Okay. Drag over, get all the outlet. Well, that didn't work so much. We'll try it again. Oops, try it again. Worst painting ever, one more time. Okay, not working so well in Lightroom. Let's try the napkins. Definitely not working so well in Lightroom. Now, what do we do here? We can keep working on this. I can have more granular control, choose where the heal tool is sampling from. But my suspicion with this was that Lightroom wasn't gonna be powerful enough to remove these. So now what do? This is when we want to bring this image into Photoshop to remove these. So I'm gonna go down here to where my image is. I'm gonna right click, edit in Photoshop. And now we're gonna see if we can use the more powerful heal brush tool within Photoshop to remove these. All right, our image is now in Photoshop. I'm gonna hover over right here to the spot healing brush tool. I'm gonna zoom in, because my painting earlier was less than good. And I can even make this a bit smaller. Make sure I'm going over all the edges. All right, so Photoshop has done an excellent job removing that. Gone. All right, we're gonna try the napkins now, make our brush size a bit bigger. All right, very nice. Not perfect, but you can see, unless I zoom in a ton and show you, oh, okay, then you can start to see like some of the issues, and we could clean that up by just smoothing it out, blurring it a bit. But point being, I wanted to show you here how powerful that Photoshop is with this. Now, to get this back into Lightroom, I'm just gonna save it, and then, once this saving is complete, go back into Lightroom, and here we have our image now ready to be worked on. So just to show you how much work we've done to now create an image without any distractions, and of course we would still, I have either done this before, all of our tonal adjustments, color adjustments, vignetting, graduated filters, all that stuff. You can still do that now afterwards. But this is the image that we started with. Great subjects of this photo, but so many distractions. Cropping, heal tool within Lightroom, not powerful enough, heal brush within Photoshop, and that allowed us to get to here. This is a photo that has no distractions, and now we've created something, this is the best of both worlds, where you're a church photographer, you capture a great moment there in person as it's happening. Oh no, it wasn't perfectly framed. There are some things in this shot I wish weren't there. We can clean that up in Lightroom, and now you get the best of both worlds, capturing an organic moment as it happens with no distractions, and the ideal framing. There you have it, church photography, Lightroom techniques you should be using. Now, this really just scratches the surface of what's possible in Lightroom because it's an incredibly capable tool, but with that extreme capability comes complexity. And I don't know about you, but it's taken me a little while to get comfortable with each panel, what all the tools do. So if you want to see more videos on how to edit your church photos in Lightroom, what I need you to do is just comment the word "more" in the comments below this video. I just want to gauge the interest level on this kind of content. 2 videos I have in mind specifically that I've thought of doing would be number 1, how to develop a unique style and aesthetic for your church photos so they all look similar, feel part of the same brand. And then 2, a beginning to end editing tutorial step by step that shows you how to use each and every panel, every tool, what they're for, so you're not just guessing or ignoring a tool because you don't want to ruin anything by using it. So if you want to see those 2 videos and dive deeper into church photography, just put the word "more," all caps, in the comments below. Thanks as always for your time. Thumbs up if you learned something, and I'll talk to you real soon.